Yo, what's going on, man? It is your boy, baby, JOECARROLLFITT, and I'm back at it again with another one, all right? Today, man, we're hopping into a fellas mystery video, man. I'm super hyped for this. This is honestly like one of my new favorite things to get into, okay? I love any type of like mysteries, unsolved murders, blah, 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 blah. I love it, bro, because we get to sit here and talk about it, come up with our own fucking stories or theories about what happened. You guys don't know, okay? Just upload the unexplained deaths of the 9 Dyatlov past hikers, okay? Hopefully I didn't butcher that too bad, but regardless or not, let's go ahead and get into the video, all right? Make sure if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, bro. And by the channel, I mean the fellas mysteries, bro. Okay, the homie Chip and Freezy put together some awesome content, all right? Make sure you guys go over there and support. Let's get into the video.
Gosh, Chip, mate, I'm so sorry about that one. Honestly, mate, I know I shouldn't be this late every time, but I was trying to find what the tallest building was.
Did you figure that out?
Oh, I couldn't believe it when I found out. Turns out it's the library. It's got the most stories. Anyways, what we got today?
Today, we have the mysterious case of Dyatlov Pass. 9 hikers in Western Siberia, all found dead.
A body has been discovered by tourists in Russia's
that was hard!
at the famous Dyatlov.
Oh, that was cool, chat.
A murky history of unsolved deaths.
They were on an advanced winter hiking trip, trekking hundreds of kilometers through frozen wilderness.
This document was written in the year 1959 by Vasily Ivanovich Tempelov, the chief prosecutor in the region.
Their autopsies revealing severe internal injuries that were hard to explain.
What?
A search party was sent out, and 2 weeks after they were due to return, their tent was found.
I'm not gonna lie, this particular case has been commented so much. It's relatively popular. A few other people have covered it, but nobody covers it quite like the fellas.
No.
Come
Just
on.
a reminder before
Let
we get
them
into
niggas
this
know what the
case,
fuck
if
going
you
on,
do
fellas.
Want to watch every fellas mysteries every Monday, you need to turn on the notifications bell. It's right below the video. Just go ahead and hit that, and you will never.
Oh, come
miss
on. We already got them notifications
Seriously,
on,
press it.
baby.
It's just a little bell. You just press it, and that way you will never, ever feel left out when you're at your workplace, if you're at school, at college, at uni, and everybody is talking about the latest fellas mystery episode. Guess what? You're gonna be clued in because you had the notification bell on. Chip, tell me, where are we? When is this? And who are these hikers?
Okay, so picture the scene. 1959, quite some time ago. Ural Mountains, Western Siberia. Now
It's cold out there.
yeah.
I will say that.
Oh, it's cold. We've got 10 hikers, but actually one of them decided to make the best decision of his life and went home early because he wasn't feeling too great. So we were left with 9 hikers on the expedition.
I'm not gonna lie, that guy must be looking back. And have you heard of it, like survivor's guilt?
Yeah.
Almost. Like he is subconsciously. Well,
I feel like anybody that survives, like if it's like a whole group of people and there's always one person that like remains or whatever, you know what I mean, at the end of it, I feel like they gotta die. As horrible as it sounds, I feel like they gotta die. They did some unthinkable shit that just, I feel like they gotta die, bro. Like they gotta go too. I don't want them here. If they were able to survive and everybody else died, it was because of something weird or fucked up that they did. And they gotta die. They gotta die. They're not going to heaven.
made the best decision of his life by going home because he was ill, and yet he then later finds out that the 9 people he left on that expedition all died. Let me tell you a little bit about these group of 9 hikers that were left on this expedition. Okay, they're all university students.
Okay,
right. Some of them studied engineering, some did economics, but they were all in their early 20s.
Okay.
And there was a mixture. There was about 7 men, 2 women. That were left on this, but there was one sort of leader, and that's how the name of this case became a thing. His name was Igor Dyatlov.
Igor.
Now, Igor was the most experienced of the group in terms of hiking. They all had, hiking experience, but Igor was by far the top boy. The top dog.
No such thing as luck, bro. There's no such thing as luck. No matter how you do it, no matter how you look at it, no such thing, man, Seb. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he was the leader of the group.
A bit of a Chad.
A 1959 Western Siberian Chad.
Yeah.
There was sort of one outlier.
Yeah.
Now, this guy was in his late 30s, and he had actually even fought in World War II. Like, this guy was going on an expedition with
Respect that.
younger people, and that sort of raised a few eyebrows, because it's like, why is a guy that is, you know, almost double the age of some of these people going on a hike here? And you know, did he have anything to do with ultimately?
Just didn't want to give up the youth, man.
See, sometimes people just hold on to it for a bit too long. you
Yeah.
know?
We've all got that old friend in the group.
I've got Calix. January 23rd, 1959.
Ooh.
All the
What the
hikers
fuck?
got on board a train which took them to the Ural Mountain. Okay, this is where they wanted to do their hike. Now, it's important to note that Igor had actually said to friends and families, expect us back around the 12th of February.
Yeah.
Because obviously back then technology was a bit different. You couldn't just FaceTime someone on the mountains, right? Should anything go wrong,
Call the feds.
call the feds, send out a search party, go and look for us.
Should have called us.
Yeah, no requests. No
we were
requests right
not
now until we
alive
finish the queue. It's already at like 5 hours.
Wouldn't have been possible.
No. All the hikers, they're noting everything down. They've got journals with them. They're taking pictures on all cameras. And as far as the journals are concerned, everything was, you know, smooth sailing. The expedition was going fine, you know. Despite the hard landscapes, cold snow, temperatures dropping to as low as minus 30 degrees Celsius.
That
What?
is Baltic.
When it's -1 outside,
Right.
I'm going out wrapped up.
Put it this way, the
When it's-
United Kingdom.
who the
quite
fuck is going
literally shuts
outside in
down
-1?
If it goes into the minus degrees, okay? So if you could just imagine minus 30, that is absolutely freezing, and it takes a lot to survive in those sort of
That's
conditions.
brave.
I mean, mate, you're in Western Siberia. This place is not the Maldives. This is not the Bahamas. This is a genuinely dangerous trek that they're embarking on. It's now February 1st. We've obviously already had the guy that left the group because he wasn't feeling well. So we've got these 9 hikers, and they approach somewhere called Dead Mountain.
Ooh.
What?
I mean, talk about a scary name for a mountain.
Yeah.
Like, why? Why the
anyways, they
fuck would you
spend
do
most
that?
of the day
I would have been like, yo,
ascending
we gotta go
this mountain.
around
They're
Dead
climbing
Mountain.
up, they're climbing
Like,
up.
fuck that. We ain't
And
going to
they
Dead
turn
Mountain, nigga.
really quite far. They're only a few hundred meters off of the peak, and they decide, right, we're gonna pitch up our tent right here. Now, at this point, the weather had gone completely rubbish. The visibility was in the mud, and they couldn't actually see much, because if they could have, they would have seen.
You must
about
be talking about the
1.5
movie
kilometers away,
Revenant,
there was
man,
like a
Seb.
woods, a forest area.
Wow.
And had they of pitched their tent there, they would have sheltered themselves from a lot of potential natural disasters.
Yeah, things could have been a lot different potentially. Now, if you remember those journals I told you about, they actually commented on the weather that you just mentioned, and there is a final entry into the journals which says, "It is difficult to imagine such a comfort on the ridge, with shrill howling wind, hundreds of kilometers away from human settlements."
So they know they are in a stick.
A slight panic there.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit of worry.
Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised really. Like I said, the conditions out in Siberia, it is intense. Like you would be concerned regardless, right? And so the last thing you would want when you're, almost at the peak of a mountain is even worse wind, and they already addressed that in there. So it was safe to say that maybe they were a little bit concerned. But to be honest, that final entry doesn't scream to me that they know their life's in danger or anything.
No, not yet.
Nah.
Not just yet.
Yeah, nah.
February
See, they
12th
probably.
came and went,
I'd be able to
and
respect it.
That was the date that Igor had let his family and friends know that they were supposed to be back on. Obviously, they didn't arrive, and so the natural next step to do was to send out a search party to look for them. On February 26th, the search party actually ended up finding their campsite, and it was torn up. Like
Holy
slashed,
shit.
The fabric was slashed. Not only that, but there were footsteps going away from the tent. And nobody's had just been found yet, but they did find the campsite. Now, the footsteps, what they did mention was that it wasn't like there was running, or if you're running in snow, it leaves a lot more, of a whole,
I guess
bigger footprint.
here, hold on.
Whereas
What I'm thinking in my head is I'm trying to figure out, are they trying to say that it was slashed by like another person, which is what they're trying to like put the whole story together with the whole footprints or whatever, or like, because in my head immediately as soon as they said slashed, I started to think of like, what if it was just because of the fact that there was like a blizzard or something and the snow piled up on certain parts of the tent, which caused it to like tear, you know what I mean? Like, could it have just been something so simple as that? And then the footsteps was literally somebody like slow walking like through the blizzard, you know what I mean? Trying to get away or trying to like go find cover somewhere. That's all I could think about. I can't think that like there was just some unheard of person or like tribe out there that just decided to come hunt them down. Like, that just seems kind of crazy to me.
This one,
What do y'all think? What do y'all think, chat?
they said that the footsteps looked as if it was just someone calmly walking away. It is important to note, though, that the footsteps only went on for about 500 meters before eventually they were covered in snow. Obviously, you know the conditions out there. The fact that they even found footsteps, I'm almost impressed.
Yeah.
But yeah, they went on for 500 meters and then they disappeared.
So the next day, of course, they're following the footsteps. They come across what seems to be like a campfire and the bodies of Yuri D and Yuri K. Now, these bodies had pretty much no clothing on them, no hats, no gloves, anything that you would need to protect yourself against, temperatures as low as minus 30 degrees.
Yeah, I mean,
Or
that would be the first biggest.
Unless they died and then the people were like, hey, let me put on your clothes to like protect myself more, you know?
Alarm bell was the fact that they had either
300
left or
people
something
died on
happened,
Mount Everest
and they clearly weren't
attempting to
equipped
reach the summit.
for it
Damn.
at all, which is also a little bit weird because we mentioned that the footsteps indicated more of like a calm way of leaving. So if you were leaving quite calmly, why do you not have the clothes and the necessary equipment to survive in the conditions that were out there?
And it looked like they still had the energy and the means to set up a campfire.
Yeah.
But anyway, Yuri D was actually found with like burns on his head and his foot, bruising, and Yuri K pretty much exact same similar stuff.
Nose bleeding.
And there was a bunch of branches around them, so suggesting that maybe one of them's climbed a tree.
What the
to escape,
fuck?
trying to get bird's eye view of something.
The next 3 bodies that were found was obviously the leader, Igor, the guy that we spoke about.
Oh, so it's some
Zinaida
weird
as
shit
well.
going on.
And then the third person was Rustem. So those were the 3 hikers that were then found. Now, they were actually found in between the campsite where the tent was and also the forest. Now, they were sort of completely covered in snow. They had been left there for a little while as well. Unlike the other ones who had absolutely nothing, Igor found slightly dressed, but was missing like the essentials. Obviously, again, in these conditions, there's clearly some essential wear to survive. Yeah, exactly. Zinaida as well, same story for her. And then ultimately, Rustem had a minor skull fracture.
Quite strange.
Which is quite strange because it would then start saying, was there some sort of like violent attack?
They
here?
had to be. They had to be like attacked or something, bro.
But look,
Like, chat, are we running with the theory that they were attacked? Like, how are we feeling about that?
we're gonna get into the theories here, and let me tell you, the theories for this particular case are
Because it's too
Now,
dangerous.
2 months later, on May 4th, they find the 4 other hikers.
So are we thinking that like they tried to carry the bodies, Mansev, and then they like had to like drop them off midway because they realized that it would be too hard, you know what I mean? But like they said, they were like right there by the camp. They pretty much all basically were found by the camp. Not all, but just those couple. Like, what was that, 4 they named so far, or 3?
They were found at the bottom of a ravine over a small hill. 3 of them had internal injuries, and 1 of them actually had a major skull fracture. And the autopsy report said that these injuries were deemed fatal.
So they got beat up. Somebody beat the shit out of them.
Nikolai, the guy with the major.
What if they got
skull
attacked
fracture,
by an
also
animal,
had
chat?
a broken jaw as well, which is pretty interesting. Was there a scrap? Was there a scrap between people? I don't know. Not only that, but there were other parts of his body as well that were fractured. So there's quite a lot of physical damage done here. And then not only that, but we had Alexander, who had a wound behind his ear. And then not only that, but they say that his neck was twisted in like an odd way.
Starting to sound like a horror film.
It really is. It seriously is. And not
Starting
only
to sound
that, but
crazy,
his
Chad.
eyebrows were missing and his bones were actually exposed. So I know that sounds pretty graphic, but I think it's important that we almost paint you guys this picture that these bodies weren't.
Yeah, I wouldn't
found
want you
in,
to
like,
answer the
pristine
questions that I'm
condition by
asking.
any means.
It's been 2 months.
It had been 2 months, so a lot could have happened. There was
Yeah.
a lot of decomposition that might have happened. Obviously, with the snow melting. There was a lot of stuff going on here. Not only that, but were there any animals out there that wanted a little
Could have
taste?
been.
It was also said one of the girls had actually had their eyeballs missing. She was also missing her tongue. So you've got eyeballs and tongue missing. Is this just a case of decomposition? Is this an animal that has just come along? Like we said, it was 2 months later. There was time for animals to come around. Not only that, but third, was this some sort of killer with just this weird MO?
Was there
you know what I
someone
mean?
up there with them?
The other
It's gotta be a
also had
killer,
missing
bro.
eyeballs. So it wasn't just one person
That's
missing
two.
eyeballs. That's two persons with missing eyeballs. And then as well, they also had broken ribs. Now, the way that they had described it was almost as if, these people had been in a car crash. That was the state of their bodies, right? It wasn't pretty at all.
The medical.
Oh, what about like an avalanche or something, chat? Like, what if they were in like some type of landslide or something, right? Oh, or like a snowstorm that caused them to like fall down like the side of like a cliff or something,
Examiner believed that the soft tissue injuries were due to like putrefaction and decomposition. So we're talking about the eyeballs, the tongue. Obviously, the body had actually been exposed to water before they'd found the body. So
I mean, it's just like, mate, imagine
Werewolf?
like, you find these bodies and they're missing their eyeballs and tongue.
Yeah.
The medical examiner seems pretty
Certain.
confident, at least,
Yeah.
that it was due to decomposition, because
Yeah.
ultimately the snow.
Yeah, it would definitely take the footprints like out of the equation if there was some type of landslide, unless they got up after the landslide, you know what I mean? And like tried to walk, which is what caused the more footprints, you know what I mean?
was melting at that time, so that's why there was exposure to the water that would have caused all sorts of stuff to the body, and that was
Murder,
actually the case
suicide?
for all four of those hikers.
yes. So the report is against the idea of maybe someone taking the eyeballs
Yeah, like
out
a killer.
or cutting
Yeah.
the tongue away.
Yeah.
So just over 3 weeks after they found the final 4 bodies, May 28th, 1959, they officially closed the case with such a vague conclusion as well.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like 3 weeks, like, is that enough time to really figure out what happened? I mean,
No.
we've just gone and, there's like 9
They were just like,
bodies.
fuck it.
Wait, I'm going to read this out to you. This is what they said.
Okay.
Taking into account the absence of actual bodily harm and the absence of signs of struggle, the presence of all valuable items of the group, and considering the forensic conclusions about the cause of death of the tourist, it is advisable to consider the tourist's cause of death as a natural cause which the tourist could not overcome. Okay, so they're saying it's a natural cause.
Yeah.
But what natural cause?
Yeah,
I mean, we have to remember, look, there were slashes in the tent, right? There was calm footsteps walking away. All these people were sort of split up. They weren't all found together. And obviously, with that sort of thing, it raises a lot of eyebrows.
So
I mean,
what?
we're talking about a case that happened in Russia back then. There's a lot of shady stuff going on back then, just in general, and never mind that in Russia as well. So people started coming up with their own theories. And in fact, there were overall, I believe, 75 different theories. Now, as much as me and Chip would love to go through all 75, we've gone ahead and picked out the most likely, or at least the best and most.
All right, so this is the best part, Chad. This is the best part. So normally in every one of these episodes so far, they always like get to a certain point where they end up like going over their theories as well as like the theories of the case. You know what I mean? But then they kind of put their own little spin on things towards the end of it, and like I said, they give their own opinion on like a theory that they would think like what happened. So I love hearing their theories because those are usually like very close to mine. But let's see what they picked as some of the top theories from like the actual people that were on the case. You know what I mean?
Entertaining theories that we found.
We've dialed it down. One of the most popular theories.
Avalanche, see?
is that there was
Landslide.
an avalanche on the mountain. Now, this would explain a couple of things, like the slashing of the tent, which was slashed from the inside. Maybe they heard the avalanche coming, they knew they didn't have time, they've slashed open the tent, they've made a run for it. It would also explain the paradoxical undressing. Now, I'll explain that to you.
So you're using big words now,
that's
Chip.
a big word for me. Shortly before death, the person will remove all their clothes as if they were burning up, when in fact they are freezing.
So yeah, I guess it's just one of those things where your body is almost like trying to trick itself because it's so cold. It's trying to make you think that you're actually warm. So in that state of survival, really.
Wow.
They started
Okay.
taking off all their clothes, thinking that they're burning up.
Yes, but with that, I was thinking to myself, like, if that's the case, just before they're about to die, they've taken all of the clothes off. Surely the clothes will be right near them.
One of the most important things about this case, and one of maybe the weirdest things, and something that's still unexplained, is the fact that some of the clothes had actually had radioactivity on them, or more so than usual. Now, it's important to remember though, back in those times, this is when there was a lot of testing going on.
Yeah.
You know, nuclear weapons was a relatively new thing back then, and they were doing, like I said, they were doing a lot of testings, a lot of things that probably wouldn't happen nowadays as well. So it is possible that this could have been natural as well.
Yeah,
just a completely natural
But
thing
how?
that they just had more radioactivity.
I mean, a lot of them were engineers. You know, it's possible
Yes.
they've been to a specific site, worked on stuff like that.
There was actually 2 of the hikers had actually worked previously with nuclear, nuclear radioactivity. So it's very possible
And
that
the
their clothes could have
clothing,
had it.
the clothing that was found with the radioactivity
Yeah.
coming off them was from both of the people that worked in
worked
places
there.
just like that.
Yeah, so that was one of the biggest things we noticed with this case, was that so many people had put a lot of attention, a lot of detail on this radioactivity, but I'm not too sure that it's actually a huge part of this case. And I think because, like we said,
Why
the 2
would it
people
be?
that were found with the radioactive clothes, they had previously worked with this stuff before. So that sort of
I just
explains
don't
that
understand
side of
why
things.
radioactivity
In terms of
would
the avalanche,
fucking matter at all.
There's just not enough evidence to prove that it was an avalanche, and not only that, but the footsteps were still there. Okay?
You'd think the footsteps would be covered up if an avalanche happened.
No,
right?
Exactly.
no.
Not only that,
I
but the
think that the footsteps would still be there because those would be the fresh ones. Like, they said they saw footsteps going away, so they could have literally happened after the avalanche. That's what makes sense to me. That's the only. I don't know.
Described as if they were calmly walking away.
Like, that's why they have all those injuries, because they survived it.
If you're running away from an avalanche, you're not walking away from it.
No.
You're sprinting. Now,
Not if you're finally like coming out of hiding after the avalanche. Then you would be walking, like looking around. You know what I'm saying? You would be very calm.
it is important to note though that Vox had come up with a slightly different theory to the avalanche. They still believe there was an avalanche, but it was a slab avalanche.
Okay.
A slab avalanche occurs when a heavy concentration of snow forms on a less concentrated weak layer.
And when the weak layer fails, this failure will propagate across the slope and eventually release
God, I'm so
slab
sore.
avalanche.
So this slab avalanche theory, now this one is really interesting because there was actually a paper published in 2021, this year in January
very
actually.
new.
And essentially what they're saying is that they had pitched their tent, and by pitching their tent, they made a weak layer underneath all of the snow.
Okay.
It even weakened it more. And once that weak layer goes, essentially this big slab just moves across and can crush their entire tent, whatever it was. So they're claiming that what they did was they cut themselves out of it and then headed for the tree line. Now, they actually did say in this paper that the slab avalanche is very possible, and that's what could have happened. But what that theory doesn't go into is how loads of the different injuries were sustained, and quite frankly, they didn't really have any explanation for all of the other stuff once they had headed down to the tree line. The other thing that popped up,
That's the only thing in my head that like it just starts to seem weird is if there was an avalanche, like why on earth are all the people? Why were they so hurt? You know what I mean? Like I could see like a broken leg or like a twisted ankle or something, but like a jaw as if they were punched, like ribs, you know what I mean? Like stuff like that. It all seems like there was a fight or something. It doesn't really seem like they were like fleeing the scene of something.
was something.
Oh, I'm so weak. Holy shit. This is so it's so wild to me that you guys like are not like, by you guys, I'm not talking about the people who were talking in the chat, but I'm talking about how we went from like 30 viewers all the way to 11 like once I started this. It's crazy that people aren't like interested in this. I don't know. I love it, dude.
Called katabatic wind. Imagine a strong wind, mate.
Yes.
Okay? Times that by 100 and you have a katabatic wind. And it happens quite literally in seconds. It goes from a normal, like let's say you have a strong wind, it turns into almost like a hurricane. And it's all to do with the way the wind comes over and gravity pulling it down and making it a lot faster. Now, it's obviously a lot more complicated than that, but we are not a science channel. Now, what they said was that this happens quite literally in seconds. They've realized they're in this tent. They're like, oh my God, these winds they're gonna kill us. We need to leave, right? Now, that would explain why they tried to get out really quickly, use a knife, get through. But another thing that it does explain is kind of why they were also a little bit undressed as well. because the time it takes to put on all your gear is going to take too long.
You ain't got a chance.
They don't have a chance.
There we go.
In those sort of temperatures, -30, things like that, you know, your stuff is frozen stiff. It's not like you and me, it probably takes us 20 seconds to put on a shoe, whatever it is. You know, a frozen boot, all your other kit, you're talking, it's going to take you like 10 minutes to put everything.
But see, that's where it doesn't make sense, because like an experienced hiker or an experienced anything like that, all of the stuff that goes on your body is inside of your sleeping bag. So it's staying warm and things like that. You know what I mean? You like your socks, everything like that, you take it off, you put it in the bottom half of your sleeping bag so that if something like that does happen, you're in your sleeping bag, you put all of that stuff on, like all your clothes, everything, because you're supposed to be butt naked inside of a sleeping bag. Like if you want to be in a sleeping bag the correct way, you're supposed to be naked.
On, right? And they just didn't have that time.
It is possible.
It is absolutely, it's possible. They also reckon that, you know, when they got down to the bottom, they built like that snow den, and it was theorized that maybe that just collapsed in on them, and then as they were dying, you know, they just sustained all these injuries.
Oh, they built like an igloo.
Ribs, things like that. So those are the natural disaster theories. Now, the katabatic wind one probably is a little bit better, but you are also just guessing that this type of wind had happened. Right?
Yes.
You're
We don't know for certain.
Yeah, there's no way to really prove that it happened on that night.
On to another theory. This one might be a little bit more interesting to some of the viewers. It is the cover-up theory.
Okay, I love that. Hey, I'm more than happy for something
We're all
like this.
here for a little cover-up every now and then.
Talk to me, Chip.
Okay, Igor's sister, Tatiana, said that the students' parents believed that all the deaths were somehow tied to the military.
Here you go.
We've got to be careful what we say here, Chip, because you know, we could get ourselves in a little bit of hot water.
Yeah.
So go ahead. Why does she think that?
Well, we've got a statement here from Tatiana herself. What went on up there is hard to say. The families were told, you will never know the truth, so stop asking questions. So what could we do? Don't forget, in those days, if you're told to shut up, you would be silent.
You are in Russia in 1959. There wasn't too much fair justice knocking around. If they wanted you dead, you were gonna die. And yeah, I mean, this is, look, I'm all for this theory because I love stuff like this, but we got to know some more details.
Come on, real deal. At least follow for more than 2 seconds before you start redeeming shit. Come on, cuz, make it make sense. You just played RIP for no fucking reason at all.
I guess even better. Yuri Kuntsevich, 12 years old at the time of the incident. Now, he's grown up fascinated by everything. You know, he's gone on a pilgrimage every year to where it happened.
So let's get this straight. He doesn't really have any like family ties to this. He's just a big fan of the case.
Yeah,
right?
you could say like a mega fan of the case.
Got
He even owns some of the personal possessions from, you know, some of the victims.
Really?
You know,
What's he got? What's he got in his arsenal?
Compasses, mats, pen knives, stuff like that. You know, little things.
I do wonder, how do these people get a hold of it? I mean, I know obviously at the time, you know, they probably didn't really care too much about holding on to the evidence, but you'd think that like the police would really just hold on to this stuff and like lock it away.
And he actually believes that the victims were, you know, subject to a military experiment. He believes that they were flown there to where, you know,
to Dead Mountain.
Yeah, to Dead Mountain by a helicopter, and everyone was placed there to make it look like, you know, they died naturally, but in reality.
Well, the radioactive on the shirt, he's probably thinking, I don't know.
Well,
I don't
it all
know.
makes sense why
It is.
Why there wasn't
Obviously,
one
he's
person
made all
that
these
was
claims,
like
but
a little bit
unfortunately
healthier than the others, you know?
zero
That would kind of make
evidence to
sense.
back this up.
Yeah.
So it is just all
a literal theory.
A theory.
So there's this
and that's why the other guy. Why the other guy got sick and went home, because maybe they decided like, oh, we don't need this guy. You know what I mean, for the experiment. Like maybe he didn't fit the bill or something.
Right now, he is a big fan of the author of Sherlock Holmes. In fact, it's actually even stated that he kind of dressed like Sherlock Holmes. Yeah. Okay, so he obviously sees himself as a detective.
Yeah, he's one of us. He
is one of us. Now, he's told the BBC, right? He's gone to him and said that the first prosecutor, Lev, was at first very diligent, going through the case step by step, but as things went on, he seemed to distance himself more and more from the case. As if there was maybe someone higher up, maybe a superior that was telling him, don't look into this anymore.
Pulling a couple strings
here.
Yeah.
Even back then, if Lev, the prosecutor, had not closed the case, so he was told to close the case, right? If he hadn't done that, then he would have just become a prisoner. Like that's how, that's how it is. If a superior is telling you to do something and you don't do it, you're getting banished, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So not only that,
you have to use my link to download it, brother.
To a small town in Kazakhstan.
Once if you use my link to download it, it's automatic.
Maybe there was something that had happened. He maybe didn't listen quite to the orders correctly.
Yeah.
He didn't want to close the case, but ultimately he had to. And then he was just told, right, this is the last case you're working on, mate. Banished him to Kazakhstan and told, you're doing no more here. Now, Lev, banished to Kazakhstan, once the Soviet Union had collapsed, he actually came out with a statement. He gave an interview, and he just apologized to the family, and he said, I'm sorry for the lack of truth, and that there was an overwhelming force.
What?
AKA, someone at the top was telling him,
Yeah.
stop whatever the hell you're doing right now. Now, this theory doesn't stop there, because if we remember Yuri, one of the guys that had left early doors before anything had happened because he wasn't feeling well, right?
Yeah.
Remember him? Well, he went back to the site, right? And he wasn't able to identify, let me get this right here, a cloth, skis, and glasses. So his theory is that the military found his friends before the search party, before anyone else did, and almost planted them there.
Ooh.
Because he's going there, I've never seen these items before. Where have they come from? Has
Holy
any
shit.
of the other theory, had the military taken them away, done these experiments, come back, and they've got now some items on them that Yuri is just not familiar with.
Yeah.
But you could argue that these sort of things, would he known exactly what everybody had exactly in their bag?
Like a cloth, these glasses, it's possible that you've got 9 friends, maybe you just didn't know they
or
had
he
a pair
didn't
of glasses.
recognize them, or just,
Nah.
I don't know. I just think that...
Not if you're close. If you're close,
the
you
theory
would
is a little
know.
far-fetched, and ultimately there is no evidence that the military had taken them away, done these experiments, brought them back.
I mean, what evidence would there
it's
be?
interesting regardless.
But the military,
I guess their evidence probably would be like little tiny marks on the bodies or something. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how they would prove that.
they could have buried that evidence.
Bro, the military, they've got an unlimited budget, these lot.
Yep.
They could have done anything, but that is that theory.
Next up, the radioactive theory. Now, this is during the Cold War era. There's a lot of testing going on, a lot of nuclear testing going on. It's possible that maybe they were near a nuclear testing site.
Yeah.
They've come into close proximity to that. That's caused a lot of injuries.
I mean,
all
that
kind of stuff.
would only
The
make
Russian government,
sense.
Of course, completely denying this.
If there was,
They
if
said
there was
that
like
there
a
was no
base or
testing in
something
that
nearby,
area.
bro.
Yeah, nothing, but it could have been a secret testing secret testing site that they've stumbled across. They've seen something they shouldn't have seen, and boom, it's
got a little too
all-
close to something they
all
weren't
gone
supposed to
wrong.
get close to.
Exactly.
And yeah, but my biggest thing about this theory, now it is important to say that the majority of the Russian population actually believe this to be the correct theory. But my issue with this is that there were 2 shirts or 2 bits of clothing that were found with abnormal radioactivity. Surely when they found these people, should they have come into contact with any of that stuff, that there would have been way more, and it would have been all over them, that maybe the injuries would have definitely looked more like radioactive injuries, broken
Nah,
ribs.
they would have had to
That's
come
all
in contact with
you
like a
would expect
lot
from
of radioactive
injuries. And
energy
you
for
said,
that to
only
happen.
2 of them had it, and those were the 2 that have been known to work at
Previously
sites
worked, yeah.
like that. Surely the others would have similar radioactive dust on them, or something like that.
The Mansi tribe.
Okay.
The indigenous people of Russia out in those areas. Now,
Like living in that kind of area.
mate, it's yeah. So they were known to operate in that land area especially, and there is this theory that this Mansi tribe, we're talking. The way
that
they
makes
survived
hella
is by,
sense.
hunting, fishing.
But I feel like they
we're
would have
talking
ate their bodies or some
animistic
weird
stuff,
shit like
really
that. They would have kept the
separated it
bodies.
from modern society, or at least back whatever it was back in 1959, right? And there's this theory that these students, the hikers, had actually stumbled across their land, and in response, the Mansi people killed them, hunted them, killed them like that.
Okay.
There's also another theory that the Mansi people were high on mushrooms and did it that way.
Yeah, but you remember, Scott, they said that the tongue and the eyes they weren't like cut out or anything. They fell out because of the like natural causes, like being too cold and shit like that, like body decomposition. It wasn't like it wasn't ripped out, it was body decomp.
Because they had stumbled across their land. Now, this particular one is, I don't know, I think it's a bit of a reach maybe, but you know, at the end of the day, you know, these are very primal tribes. They're out there, you know, killing, things like that, but just not sure it's gonna quite fit. And you know, they actually interrogated the Mansi people and asked them lots. You know, there were a lot of different claims flying around. But one Mansi person actually gave a statement to the BBC, and it said, "They would have thrown us all into prison because it was a cruel time. In those days, people were executed by firing squad without investigation or trial."
Wait,
so
what?
that must mean that really the police actually didn't think they did it.
They didn't have enough evidence.
If there was even a small inkling, they believed that they would have instantly just been killed.
Yeah. Next theory is absolutely brilliant.
Wait, what? That didn't make no sense to me.
Somehow you've managed
But
to
did that make sense to anybody?
UFOs and aliens
Listen,
into this story.
it wasn't me, but I'm here for it. The UFO theory.
Okay.
Okay.
Holy shit!
So
This
we
nigga
got 3
Mansep,
soldiers, 2
this nigga Mansep is on point. Oh my
hiking
god.
groups, the Mansi population and a group of geologists all seemed to see, like, observe something in the sky. We're talking maybe a fireball or a orb of light flying across the sky.
There is actually a picture. We'll put that on screen
Yes.
here. Now, I'll be perfectly honest with you. This picture could be anything, but this is what they're referring to. These are the spheres.
I'm
that they're
looking at the
talking about.
picture right now in my case report here, and I'll be honest.
It's not
looking great. It's not looking great for my little UFO theory here,
What?
but anyway, the
That don't like no
reports of
freaking
in that
UFO,
year,
bruh.
1959, in February and March of flying spheres just you know in the sky. And Lev, who you spoke about earlier, actually said, and this is a quote, "I suspected at the time, and I'm almost sure now, that these bright flying spheres had a direct connection to the group's death."
So, I mean, this is the prosecutor that was told, remember, he was banished, he was sent to Kazakhstan. He also came out and said there were people higher up telling him, stop looking too much into this case, right? So he's been ditched, but you could argue that that would explain a bit of the radiation and also some of that inhumane trauma. The trauma that
Yes.
wasn't
Would it really
able-
explain
they
the-
believe in the autopsy to be done by another human.
Yeah.
It's important to note as well that Lev had later on published articles about UFOs. He is clearly a big UFO believer, and so that maybe caused a little bit of bias in his statement.
That's what I'm saying,
yeah,
shit.
Since then he has done
Even
a bit
though
of
it was a
research
joke,
into
you were still
UFOs.
spot on.
I mean, I don't know.
That was
if
twice
what
now.
he's saying is true and there were higher up people looking into it.
Yeah,
Not to
from the
mention,
KGB,
yeah,
right?
the KGB actually told the researchers to stop pointing fingers at UFOs and aliens being the cause of this. And
Kind of sus.
it would take quite a lot for the KGB to step in here and say, guys, stop.
See, I don't think that at all. I feel like it was more or less they were trying to control people's outrage. And I feel like when you give people something like the thought of there being alien, like the thought of aliens being real, when you give someone that much, like, people would feed into that and it would almost cause like an uproar. It would cause too much bullshit, I feel like. So I feel like that's why they've always tried to tell people to like stop talking about it, stop like developing these like fake stories, because like I feel like we really don't know shit. You feel me? I feel like we really don't know shit. We may have like seen a ship or something like that before, or like seen some type of like unexplained control like system or something, but I don't think that we actually know anything about it. But I do know that like when you give people something like that and it that much fuel alone, bro, oh my god, it could cause so much bullshit. The world isn't ready. Like, I also believe that like the regular public doesn't need to know what like the military is doing, because once we start, like, we don't have the minds to like think about that kind of shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not up here thinking about like people getting taken over, or like what's happening in this town, or what a nuke would do, or what would happen if this country invaded, or anything like that. Like, I'm not thinking on that level, you know what I'm saying? I don't know all the ins and outs. So it's like, you know, I would be lit if I found out, or it would be lit if you found out. I don't know about all that. I hope I made sense in that little rant, guys. Sorry.
Looking down.
I'm literally, I got my feet up on my bed right now, and because I'm like just so relaxed and into this. I'm looking at my second monitor right now, guys. That's what I'm looking at. It has the OBS screen. I'm literally watching the video from the OBS screen.
Down this route, we don't like it. Now, whether that's because they didn't want to create some sort of hysteria around, you know, aliens and UFOs, and they just didn't want the hassle. But at the same time, it does make you think.
It would cause a lot of mass panic, you know, aliens coming down on your phone.
See, there you go, mass panic. Look at that, chat. I'm spot on, baby, spot on.
There is no real concrete evidence that.
No, I'm not going to point the finger at our little green friends here. I want to stay on their side.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe it was
a fine ass alien. Like,
what's
her name?
We're out.
What's that girl, the blue chick or whatever from Guardians of the Galaxy? Ooh, they pull her fine ass. Or was she green, not blue? I can't remember. Morgana? What the fuck is her name? I don't remember.
Bro, we're out in Western Siberia. There was a bit of radioactivity out there.
Yeah.
Could there
Gamora, there you go, Gamora.
Nuclear
You smashing Gamora? No cap. I'm in there. I'm in there.
How about
boy.
this as well? There were some photos.
Call me Star-Lord, baby.
I'm gonna keep this quick because I'll be perfectly honest with you guys. I think we can rule this one out.
We're definitely ruling out the Yeti, chat.
This photo.
I don't know if we can rule that out because if I'm looking at that right there,
mate, that's just a human.
That is Bigfoot. Bigfoot has been found. We solved the case.
Oh my
I just don't understand how they look at these pictures and go, that's blatantly Yeti.
Our final theory. Now, it was actually put forward by another YouTuber, Lamina. We'll call this the smoke theory.
Yeah.
And now he dismisses all irrational theories, you know, so he believes there was no UFO.
No Yeti?
No Bigfoot, which is, you know, it's crazy to me. But anyway, he believes there was an immediate threat inside the tent. Now, you know, these guys were all a bunch of engineers. They've taken a handmade stove with them on the trip, and it's possible that, you know, maybe something's caught fire. They've had to slash the tent open because if there's a fire in that tent, you got to get out of there quickly, right?
It was a fire, but there's also just the smoke filling up the inside there. Mate, you have to get out there ASAP.
Yeah.
And if that means, or even just cutting holes in it to get the smoke out, you know, they're doing whatever they can to get out of that tent and get out of it safely. If they breathe in too much of that smoke, like,
they're dead.
Yeah, and it can explain why the footsteps are more like cautious footsteps, not sprinting away.
It does make a lot of sense for everything else, and maybe what they said was, right, okay, you guys go down this way, you go this way, and then we'll meet up here. We're trying to find like another place that we can set up camp for the night. That explains maybe the campfire being made by the first set of bodies that were found. It explains why they might have been undressed as well. They were obviously settled down. They might not had everything on. The stove was on. The heat was there for them, so they didn't need to have a lot of clothes on.
There. And also, there was blood around the mouths of the bodies, so you know that is a symptom of, you know, breathing in smoke.
Right.
So this theory is looking pretty, you know, it's got legs.
It does.
It's got good legs.
But it does also leave a little bit about, okay, so how were the injuries sustained, the cracked ribs, things like that. Now, what they say then is that the people had, you know, fallen on their adventures. We know the weather was bad, the visibility was bad. They've fallen, they've died essentially just on impact.
You're going to be panicking. So the idea that they might have fallen, you know, that's
it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. You know,
it makes a lot of sense, but then again, it kind of doesn't make any sense.
You've got minutes to figure out what you're doing here. Otherwise, you're pretty much dead. You're sprinting. You don't see a ledge or a hill. You fall. Multiple cracked ribs. You bang your head. Major skull fracture.
Yeah. Look, this for me, this theory that was put forward makes the most sense. It's probably my favorite theory.
Yes.
Because like I said, it makes the most sense. There's sort of evidence to back up all of that stuff as well. And, you know, it might not be the most fun theory. It might not be the most exciting, but to me, it's the one that connects the most dots.
Yeah, it makes the most sense. And, you know, got to give credit to Lamino there. He's actually
smashed it with that
put forward a great theory.
Chip, talk to me. Let's get an update. It's 2021. Where are we at right now?
Okay, so, you know, there's been books, movies, you know, even
so niggas is basically just down bad
about this case.
So I texted Adam about you guys talking about that A-list security chick, and he said that he would be down bad over some girl named Luminara Undully.
I don't know who that is. You know, there was no foul play here. This wasn't someone coming up killing them, all that sort of stuff. Again, leaning into the smoke theory potentially.
Yes, and Tatiana and her family members have said that they would rather let the loved ones rest in peace, and quote here, emotionally speaking, this is very hard.
I mean, yeah, look, the case was reopened. I don't think Tatiana and her family necessarily wanted that.
Hell no.
This is so many years old. How many years? Almost 60 years. Well, actually, like, it is
Yeah,
60
no,
years old.
seriously, it's been that long.
You know, with all these theories, there are still a few questions left at the end.
I would still want to know
which is
why.
this case is
I don't
so
care.
interesting,
Yeah.
and we'd love to get
I don't
your
care
guys'
what would
thoughts
happen,
on
bro.
one
I would
theory,
always want to know
and then
why.
two,
Why or
which
how?
is your favorite?
Yeah,
Which do
for
you guys
sure.
like the most? Which do you think happened?
And of course, with that being the end of today's episode, make sure you hit the subscribe button, drop a like, comment like Carl said, and also turn on their notifications so you don't
Turn
miss
on them
another
bells,
Mysteries
bitch!
Monday.
Yeah,
That is myself and Detective Freezy signing out. Good night.
The Fellas Mystery Podcast is always crazy, man. Okay, you guys gotta make sure, if you haven't already, went ahead and subscribe to them, then you go ahead and get into it. I don't know why I keep on adding podcasts to the end of it. go fuck with them, all right? They're awesome people. Definitely worth every vibe possible, all right? I love you guys so much. Big peace.